Live from the heart of Baylor Bear Country, the most comprehensive pre-game coverage. This is Game Day Live, powered by Sikkim 365 and KWTX News 10.
And here we go on this very frigid Saturday morning inside our studios on Elm and, of course, MLK, not far from McLean Stadium, just about a mile west of McLean. Game Day Live, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. Good morning. Hope you're doing well. Fox Saturdays, big noon kickoff set up over at McLean Stadium. Obviously, Baylor and TCU. Baylor in need of some kind of an adrenaline rush, and they'll need one to beat unbeaten and also fourth-ranked TCU. We'll hear from Chris Williams momentarily from McLean Stadium. Also, Dave Aranda, Sonny Dykes, and more, including Blake Blackmar on the Barbacoa breakfast brisket. Barbacoa breakfast biscuits. Now, here is at the end of my interview earlier this week with Baylor football coach Dave Aranda. This kind of set the tone, and perhaps what is the tone inside the football building and the program throughout the week.
Been some challenges. How would you describe this season based on the expectations, and then also what you actually can get?
Yeah, I think it's been probably framed by expectations, and I think unfortunately, and I think there's been a lot of growth with the team. I think there's been improvements. I think there's been areas that the team has matured in spots that they didn't even know they needed maturing on. And then I think there's blind spots that we had that we didn't even know we had. And so I think that discovery of the whole thing throughout is probably my biggest takeaway. But I think there's an opportunity to finish really strong with this one. Mm-hmm. And I think there's another great opportunity right after that. And so, kind of mentioned it before, is that the response is going to be the biggest thing. Like how we respond is really going to be, especially after just the dud of this last one, is really going to be kind of what is the heart and soul of the team.
All right. Do they have a heart and soul? Sure they do. Do they have football ability today against TCU? Because last week, obviously, it was not good in any way, shape, or form.
No, it wasn't. They've got to respond to it. You would think that they would play better, but, sometimes that can break a team. I hope that doesn't, because it was they did not match the emotions in the stadium on Saturday night, and nothing worked. I mean, I cannot think of – when I think back to that game, and it'll be years from now, I can't think of one thing that I would say, well, that was good execution. That was a great decision there. It was just all bad all the way around. So they've got to come back today against the best team in the conference and look like they're alive. And I hope that they have it in them so we see a good game today. But, sometimes you don't know. I mean, that's been the thing about this team. He hasn't been able to kind of galvanize their emotions like they were last year. So every team's different, and this one has proven to be that, especially in that regard.
Yeah, it's interesting that we're 11 weeks into this thing now, and we're still basically doing psychiatry class with this team, or psychology class, however, you better want to frame that. I know that's part of the deal, especially as a head coach, that you've got to get into the minds, and every mind's different, and there's a lot of different personalities and different desires and wants and needs and all those types of things. And certainly it was easier when you had guys who were 6th and 7th year players that were just more mature and kind of knew the lay of the land and been through a lot. But I mean, my God, it's just football. Ultimately at the end of the day, like, it's almost like they've almost psyched themselves out to the point of it being something way bigger than that. And quite frankly, it's not. It's a football game. It's why you're at Baylor to begin with. It's why you're being talked about to begin with. So I understand where he talks about, well, it's been kind of framed by expectations. Yeah, there are expectations. There are expectations when you go and we win the Big 12 last year and you bring back a giant an enormous amount of your giant players on both sides of the ball. When you bring back your quarterback, when you bring back a number of other guys defensively, like your Dylan Doyles and your Matt Joneses and your Bryson Jacksons and those types of guys, your Al Walcotts. I mean, we talk about the Jalen Petries and the JT Woods and those guys that left. 25 guys didn't leave. Like 7 guys left. Now, granted, 7 were major contributors, 7 guys in the NFL, and then a sprinkling of other guys like your Jaron McVays, who also dabbled or, who didn't end up sticking in there. But, at the end of the day, these guys just got to go play football. It's not about who's here, who's not at this point. That was all early season stuff. They are who they are, and they are who they have been. And it's not about last year. It's almost next year. It's almost next year more than it is last year. So the fact that we're, 2 weeks remaining in the season, in the regular season, and they're still trying to figure out who they are, and they're still a ball of nerves, and they're still getting psyched out by things. I mean, good luck guessing what we're going to see today. I think we'll see a better effort based on what, we saw last week, which was just a bad deal all the way around, as you both pointed out. But who the heck knows with this team? But you would think that, if you're going to see that kind of concentrated, focused effort that they're capable of, it would be today. And if they don't do it today, well, they're never going to do it again in front of this McLean Stadium crowd. And I don't know, that would matter to me if I was never going to play in front of them again. For a number of guys, I think that would matter to them. So, I would expect a good showing.
So we will again hear from Dave Aranda from earlier in the week about many things. As Craig mentioned, here we are 11 weeks, really 12 weeks into the season, and 10 games into the season, 11th game coming up at 11 o'clock on Fox and at McLean Stadium. But let's go to Chris Williams of KWTX, who is braving that cold and frigid temperatures earlier today. And Chris, big noon kickoff is here. Number 4 ranked unbeaten TCU is here. Baylor is here. And your thoughts this morning. Thanks for your time today.
It always cuts out right when you're talking to me, but big noon going on behind me. Honestly, considering how cold it is, considering there was rain in the forecast, not a bad showing here. You can see it, especially some fans have already left for the Bear Walk. And if I turn this camera around for you, you'll see the buses for the team just pulled up right here. So the Bear Walk going to be going on this way. And then as we see, they've started big noon kickoff here. So fans, they're excited. And, whenever TCU's coming to town, I feel like fans can at least get up a little bit extra for it.
Yeah, Chris, it looks like there's quite a bit of purple behind you there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a far drive, and TCU fans actually have something to be excited about for the first time in a long time. There's maybe more purple back because they got here a little bit later, but the green does outnumber the purple. I can tell you that for sure.
Chris, any way to compare it to kind of the mood that you got from last week? I mean, no obviously different game times and all of that, but, Baylor kind of bruised and beaten up after last week's showing. Do you get a sense that everybody's kind of ready to wash that bad taste out of their mouths?
I think fans are apprehensive. I think they're a little bit worried to get the hopes up is kind of what I've gathered. They're excited about the opportunity, but I feel like last week there was such a confidence with the fans and honestly probably a confidence with us that they would at least show up and compete. I think Baylor fans still believe that they can win this game, but I think they equally believe that Baylor might come out and lay an egg today. So there's definitely some apprehensiveness with these fans.
There's also a lot of local connection with TCU. Quentin Johnston, of course, and Jared Wiley from Temple. Trevius Hodges Tomlinson, cornerback at TCU, played at Midway. That ought to be fun and a story today here in Waco.
Yeah, definitely. How cool for those guys to be able to come back here and try to put on a show. A guy like Trey Hodges Tomlinson, I mean, he's such a good DB and All-American last year. And then Quentin Johnson down there from Temple, holy cow, he's played his way into probably first-round draft, maybe even top 15 pick this year. He's third in the conference in reception yards, fourth in the conference in touchdowns. Coach Aranda called him a game changer this week, and that's more than just the stats. I'm sure you guys have noticed he always seems to just show up in the biggest moments. Last week, somehow the best wide receiver on the field is wide open for the go-ahead touchdown to secure the win for TCU. Then you go back to Kansas. He had that unbelievable catch in the back of the end zone that won that game over the Jayhawks. So he's not just a gamer. He's a guy who will make the big play in the biggest moment. And I'm sure he's looking forward to trying to do that in front of the Central Texas crowd who watched him do the same thing at Temple just a few years ago.
Chris, do you think that the emotional cup is full for the Baylor team today?
Yeah, I mean, that's been a struggle all year for Aranda, is dealing with those emotions with this team. They feel like a young team, at least maturity-wise, with dealing with the big moments. And so yeah, I wonder what it's like for them trying not, because you don't want to get up too much for the game. You don't want to have too much of this, oh, we didn't show up last week, we need to do it this week. But it is a big opportunity. So I think the emotional cup is full, but I think it's a lot of mixed emotions. And I'm wondering how these young guys are going to be able to deal with trying to not make the moment too big, not trying too hard to force something, but showing up and being ready to go.
Hey, Chris, thank you very much. And you're right. As soon as you go to you or Darby, the band starts playing or there's a buses coming up and the bear walk. Great job. We'll see you in just a little bit. Chris Williams, KWTX, which we're on today. The Big Boy channel, KWTX, the local CBS affiliate in Central Texas, and this is Game Day Live. When we come back, some graphic and history, Baylor and TCU. Most of you know, but maybe some of you don't. Well, we will also hear as well from former Baylor running back Abram Smith, a couple of minutes with him about being the #1 overall pick this week in the XFL by the DC Defenders, Dave Aranda, Sonny Dykes, and more. This is 365 Sports and Game Day Live.
Game Day Live on News 10 is sponsored locally by TFNB, your bank for life, Advanced Pain Care, and Central Texas Plumbing Solutions.
When storms damage your roof, there's only one place to call, and it's Montgomery Construction and Roofing. MCR offers detailed bids for affordable quality roof repair and replacement. Schedule your free inspection and make sure your damage is repaired right the first time. Our claim specialist can help walk you through filing an insurance claim for wind and hail, too.
Say goodbye to damaged roofs and yes to Montgomery Construction and Roofing. We roof Texas, and we are here to serve you.
I see many people who've had their life turned upside down by an injury.
I crushed my hand and broke it in 8 places and had soft tissue damage. I got a spinal cord stimulator and my device stopped working and I was devastated. We had to find a new neurosurgeon through Advanced Pain Care. They took care of all of it for me. They got everything back together where I can function.
Let Advanced Pain Care help you take your life back. Call today for a same-day appointment. Advanced Pain Care, the pain stops here.
We all are experiencing how the current crisis is affecting our communication. Conducting virtual meetings or classes from the workplace or your home while maintaining security, efficiency, and effective communication throughout your organization is the new normal. Asbel Electronics can set up your business, school, or house of worship with hardware kits to enhance your virtual meeting experience and provide secure market-leading Cisco WebEx meeting or Teams for your face-to-face communication. Call Asbel Electronics at 254-824-0237.
All right, we're back. Game Day Live on KWTX and also 365 Sports. We appreciate you. Also, Sikkim 365 Radio, Baylor and TCU just after 11 o'clock on Fox. And again, the big noon kickoff is here and on the premises of McLean Stadium. You just saw that with Chris Williams. So let's look at the history. These two teams have met 100 and I think it's been 14 times. 117 times, excuse me. All-time record, TCU, 57 wins, Baylor 53 and 7 ties. First time they ever met was in 1899. Baylor, and this is what we mentioned earlier in the week, it's kind of a little bit of an asterisk, leads the all-time series in Waco, 34, 33, and 5. Skip down a couple of lines to where it says from 1899 to 1910, TCU was located in Waco, as some of you know, and some of you may not. And so every time they played, it was in Waco from 1899 to 1910. TCU moved to Fort Worth on the campus sometime before the 1911 season. In Fort Worth, TCU has a lead 24-19-2. They did not play from 1996 to 2005 when the original Big 12 was formed. Some other trends in this series. TCU has won 6 of 7. Believe me, we've watched them all, including 2 years ago in Waco, 33-23. Baylor won the last time among those 6 out of 7 was in 2019 when they played for the Big 12 title. Triple overtime in Fort Worth, 29-23. Last Baylor win in Waco was the classic of all classics, 61-58, that will be discussed forever. And then also this as well, 44 times these two teams have met, 44 times, including 7 ties, the game has been decided by 7 points or less. There's the longest streak. Both have won 8 straight. TCU in the 64-71, Baylor 71, Grant Teff to 1981.
Yeah, this has been a series, though, that, if you look, 6 of the last 7, and it's 57-53 and, well, I guess, 7 ties or whatever it was all time. So in the last 7 years, TCU has taken the lead on this series because for whatever reason, every year this game seems to just mean more to TCU than it does to Baylor. Based
on the performances.
Sometimes it's, icy, cold, rainy weather in Fort Worth. Sometimes it's, for whatever reason, they can't move the ball. They play great defense. Jalen Reagor makes 2 plays and they win. Just a lot of weird stuff has happened in this series to Baylor. Chandler Morris comes off the bench last year and looks like Aaron freaking Rodgers all day long. And then after that, just kind of went back to being a guy for the rest of the season, but beat Baylor in that game and cost them probably a chance at the college football playoff because of that loss. So many weird things have happened in the series, and they've happened to Baylor. Baylor needs to flip the script and make something weird happen to TCU today.
Yeah, I think the other thing about these two teams playing each other is that when, Baylor has won these games, it's been by the skin of their teeth. They'd always have to just barely get by or come from behind like in 61-58. Baylor's won 4 times since 1995, but that's not really fair to do that. 4 times since 2006 when they actually played somewhat recent, and right after that they got back to the mode of playing every single year. They won by 2 points in 2011. They won by 3 points in 2013. They won by 3 points in 2014, and they won by 6 points. Their biggest margin of victory, going all the way back to 1994, is 6 points. Yep. Meanwhile, TCU has won by 27. They've won by 35. They've won by 28. They've won by 7. They've won by 40. They won by 7 again. They have multiple blowouts in this series, and I don't know why it's been so one-sided. Outside of, Baylor had a giant scandal. They also had coaching changes, and now TCU's had their coaching change, but in the midst of having an interim coach last year, they still won. So, there's been some reasons why Baylor's been down and not able to get a win in this series. But even when TCU's been down here of late, they still find a way to win. So hats off to them for that. It's kind of taken the sizzle out of this rivalry, in my opinion, because you had it to where it was at the height of its powers and looked like it was going to be one of the better rivalries in college football. And then obviously things changed at Baylor, and then eventually things changed at TCU. So there's not this old, bad blood that was kind of personal that was, amongst the head coaches. These are just guys who all shucks kind of respect each other and whatnot. And I don't know if Baylor's just a program that has to have like that chip to feel a certain type of way, but TCU they see Baylor on the schedule and they're like, boom, we're going to go out and play well, and they typically do. And, that's something Baylor's got to change today.
No matter their record, no matter what's up for grabs, no matter what's on the line.
Yeah. Now, I'm curious to see the different. Sonny Dykes approaches everything kind of the same, which is what I think the strength is of this team is that every week is the same. Every week the opponent is the most important person you've played to this point. There's nobody is more important than the last or the next. This is the most important thing you've done, and then the next one will be that same thing as you go on and go on and go on. Gary Patterson, when he was coaching at TCU, had it in his craw about Baylor. Drove him nuts. No matter what he'll ever say for all time, he did not like Art Briles. It drove him nuts. So he took special care in beating Art Briles. And then even when Art Briles was gone from Baylor, that vitriol remained, and he just took special care in it. Almost to exactly the point last year.
They're fighting for the same recruits a lot. They're both real close. There's still bitterness from the Big 12 when it began.
Before last year's game, he got fired and said, "Listen, I may be fired, but here's exactly what you do to beat this team on the way out the door," and they won. So yeah, that's how it's been. It'll probably be a little bit different under Sonny Dykes, but the momentum is all on the Horned Frog side.
Hey, 6 of 7, and 2 or 3 times, as Craig mentioned, it wasn't even close. And last year, the interception late in the game, Gary Bohannon and Baylor were trying to drive for the possibility, and there was a pick. TCU won that game. That was a tumultuous week in a way because there was Joey McGuire on his way out the door, and that they described it wasn't a distraction. It was. He's a guy that was a part of that staff when most of those super seniors, whatever you want to call them, were being recruited and signed with Baylor. Big 12 today besides TCU and Baylor. That game, 11 o'clock on Big Fox. Kansas State, 19th in the country at West Virginia in Morgantown. That's a 1 o'clock game. That's a 1 o'clock game, and I believe that is on ESPN+. Texas at Kansas. That game, 2:30 in Lawrence, and that game is on Fox Sports 1. Texas Tech at Iowa State. This is, to me, a very intriguing game because Texas Tech's trying to become bowl eligible. That game's on FS1 following the Texas game. That's at 6 o'clock. And also at 6:30, the Bedlam, Oklahoma State in Norman against Oklahoma. And Oklahoma's trying to get bowl eligible.
Some interesting quarterback news in the Big 12 this week. JT Daniels has been benched for West Virginia. Garrett Green will get that start. He sparked their offense in the win against Oklahoma last week. You're probably not going to get a lot of passing out of Garrett Green. I mean, they're going to run the ball most of the time. I mean, he made some throws when he had to, but it wasn't like he was lighting it up through the air last week.
He brings some toughness, not the JT. He brings something different to that team.
Yeah, he runs around. He's got a little bit of that, at least on one side of Johnny Football in him. He's not near the prolific passer, but kind of the running around and making things happen. That's what he does.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the stuff with JT Daniels as well is that he's a little bit banged up too. It's somewhat of a health issue as well. I don't know how much of that is that and how much of that is also just, Garrett Green just needing to give them a spark. What spark are you going to get exactly for West Virginia at the moment? I mean, enough to beat Kansas State, that'd be great. But then again, what does that even result in? You still go out and play the game and pride and all that. And you can't just stop because your AD got fired this week. But it's like, okay, even if you go beat them, like, what is it? You know what I'm saying? Like, what does it even do? That's the weird spot that West Virginia's in where, they beat Oklahoma, and it's like it didn't even happen because they're just so ready to move on to something else at this point. So, if they could beat K-State, this could be like the most non-hyped but like successfully, type of ran year that Neil Brown could have had without, accomplishing major goals, I guess, to maybe get wins over a top 15 Kansas State team, Oklahoma, Baylor, and then, a rival in Virginia Tech. But the Big 12's been a crazy race. Obviously, no TCU's already booked their spot, but I know with some teams you have them book a spot and then maybe worry about a letdown today. I don't worry about a letdown with them at all. I think psychologically they're in a good spot. Sonny Dykes has them in the right frame of mind to know they can't have a letdown today in Waco or next week, obviously, to accomplish all their goals. So, I'm curious to see who shakes out on the other side. K-State with the win over West Virginia will put themselves in the driver's seat to just have to beat Kansas to get in that Big 12 title game next week. But as we know, Morgantown's a shop of horrors for some people, including Baylor earlier this year. So you got to be careful no matter how down they may appear to be, especially with a guy like Garrett Green, who's a bit of a wild card.
Well, I'll say this. Everybody in the Big 12, even today, has a chance to become bowl eligible. Oklahoma and Tech can do it today. West Virginia, Iowa State would have to win their last two games. But there's a chance you could have 9 teams. And again, there may be some mathematical whatever but you could have 8, 9 teams become bowl eligible. Right now, TCU, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Baylor, Texas, and Kansas. There's 6 teams now. You could end up with 8 or 9. All right, when we come back, Game Day Live continues. We're going to hear from Abram Smith, former Baylor running back, on being the overall #1 pick in the XFL, plus more. And Dave Aranda, Blake Blackmar, and Sonny Dykes. And this is 365 Sports.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, who invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-7 759-8533. Chuck Verno at 720 North 64th Street. Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway. And Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors. Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott. Proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense in investing. Member SIPC.
Did you know Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco is open to the public? Next time you're in town for a Baylor athletic event or you're in town for tourism, take advantage of their day passes for $10 a piece or the weekend for $30. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers 40 group exercise classes, including indoor cycling and yoga, boot camp, and bar. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines, and a spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alec Botch, where you will be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, kids club, 16 tennis courts, and 8 pickleball courts, and youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons available. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit wacotennis.com or visit them next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Game Day Live on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, TFNB, Your Bank for Life, Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, Three Nations Brewing Company, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Edward Jones Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, and Bubba's 33.
One note last night in Las Vegas, the Baylor men's basketball team led 33-30 at halftime. That's about the time I turned it on. And then I saw Virginia go on a 30-4 run. It was shocking to see Baylor's defense being riddled from the perimeter. They did not protect the basketball. They could not shoot. And Virginia almost blew them out of the gym arena. And then Baylor made it, got it to where they were kind of like North Carolina, except they couldn't get over the top to get to that point. But Baylor loses. They'll play UCLA tomorrow, and that's a team that lost to Illinois with Matthew Meyer and
Dane Danger
on the team. So that's a game tomorrow. So a tough loss for Scott Drew and company, and one that I don't know anyone expected, although Virginia, when you get behind with Virginia, normally that means you're in trouble because of their style. But they can move it up and down the court now with what they have with Coach Bennett.
Yeah, that was I don't see teams coming back from any 30-4 runs or whatever that was last night.
They had it down under 10.
Yeah.
And with like 4 or 5 minutes left, but they just couldn't get the next stop.
Virginia not only have to get stops, but that means you have to, down at 10, you kind of have to, against a team like the Who's there, you have to just make every shot after those stops. You can't like you miss a shot, even if you get the offensive rebound, you've wasted 10 seconds against them, and they just swallow you up.
Keontae George, 20 points. L.J. Cryer had 19. Flagler, 15. Not much from inside, although I did kind of like to see what I saw from Caleb Lohner. He was at least trying to be a physical presence inside, but not during the 30-4 run. 9 of 14 threes for Virginia. Baylor, 11 of 26 early on in the first half. That was the difference for them in building that lead. The women tip off tomorrow against Maryland, and obviously the big story this week has been Asia Blackwell, their probably best player. It appears as if she's going to be out for an extended amount of time. Still no official word Nikki Collins saying that Blackwell has not given Baylor the ability to release exactly, but it's a lower leg injury. Garrett was there for that game, and she is dynamic for them. And they have Maryland, and Maryland, if you're not careful, even if you're good, can beat you up. Now, one of the other stories from this week, the XFL with Rock. The Rock, he's the one that owns it, runs it. They had their draft earlier this week, and the number 1 overall pick in the draft was former Baylor and record-setting running back from a year ago, Abram Smith. The great Abram Smith, former Baylor and record-breaking running back on the show, and just kind of talking about his situation in professional football, trying to get another glimpse or some tryouts. And then yesterday, he was the number 1 overall pick in the XFL by the DC Defenders, and he joins us now on 365 Sports. Abram, Baylor has, since the last time we talked, they had won 3 in a row, and then they got smoked pretty badly by Kansas State. The running game still seems to be the strength of the offense. If Squirrel Williams has had a breakout game, and obviously Richard Reese is very, very effective. What have you seen? It seems like it's kind of like you don't really know who they are. Last year we knew the identity of the team, and it just kind of seemed like there's something missing besides the fact you, JT, Terrell, Raleigh, Jalen, among others are gone.
I think you just said it right there. A lot of the leaders are out of the door, and you kind of have to find the, I guess you could say, the big dogs in the building, and I think that's what they're trying to do right now. They're trying to, like you said, find their identity, and every time they got the chance, they can click and they can get moving, just like you said, and I think that's all they need to do, because once they all start clicking and start getting in motion, they're hard to stop.
Abram, you mentioned that when I mentioned the names, including you among others, that those were some alphas. You guys have been around a long time, been through a lot. You yourself, just because of the battle of injuries, the change in the positions. Jalen had been there what seemed like forever. Can you try to explain that gristle, that toughness, that edge you developed along with your other guys? Not just the ones who are in the pro football league or in the league you're about to join. Can you try to explain how hard it is to get there, to get that grit you guys had last year?
We went from, I think it was really that 1-11 season, you kind of bouncing back and, there's nobody but us. So we grinded it out together. We used to call it OU, one of us. And that's kind of what we based a lot of our brotherhood on, our friendship on, is just that we knew when it came down to it, it was just us. That's all we had. That's all we needed. And that's how we just shaped into that tough team, that tough alpha dog team that you wanted, that everybody saw last year.
Did Matt Rule's out there? He was with Carolina, and of course Coach Rule as well as anybody, but he's now not in the NFL, and he got a lot of money when he was asked to leave and got fired. What would you say if a team contacted you about Coach Rule being a college football coach? What would you tell them?
I thought he was a great football coach overall. I think he's a great football coach overall, to be honest. So if I was to say anything about him, that'd be a great choice for whatever program team that wants him.
The process, right? The process. Trust the process. And 1-11, it was hard to trust the process. And in the end, it made you guys who you were, in fact, eventually at 12-2 last year. Great to have you on the show. Proud for you, Abram. Thanks for your time. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Again, he was the number 1 overall running back chosen. Quarterbacks went first in the XFL. Great job for Abram Smith and Katie Cannon, among some others that were a part of the XFL draft. All right, again, this is 365 Sports on KWTX. It's Game Day Live. When we come back, we'll hear from the unbeaten Horned Frogs head coach in Sonny Dykes, Blake Blackmar. He's also going to have his tailgate recipe segment. We'll also hear from Dave Aranda, and we'll discuss our picks today. Garrett Ross running the mothership. This is Game Day Live.
Hi, I'm John Proctor with Home Place Interiors. Nothing compares to the quality of an area rug to finish your house. Come by and save 50% on all in-stock and special order rugs. Come by Home Place Interiors, where quality is affordable.
For all your flooring needs, visit Home Place Interiors at 523 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
At Dr. Smiley, you're always our top priority. Dr. Lee, Dr. Lim, and the friendly staff are committed to delivering exceptional and professional care in general, family, cosmetic, and emergency dental services. Get $24.99 implant, abutment, crown, 3D CT scan, and consultation. Dr. Smiley accepts Medicaid and most dental insurance. Call Dr. Smiley today at 254-732-2606 and book your appointment today.
Come experience modern luxury living at Portico at Friars Creek in Temple. Enjoy our pet-friendly Tuscan and loft-style Texas-sized floor plans with desirable features like stainless steel appliances, vaulted ceilings, designer colors, expansive walk-in closets, washer and dryer connections, high-speed internet access, and so much more. You'll love our community amenities like a zero entry and our resort-style pool with an inviting outdoor cabana. Find your next home now at PorticoApartmentsTemple.com. Portico at Friars Creek in Temple, a Case & Associates property. Find Case, find home.
Watch KWTX Weekend Mornings on News 10.
And we appreciate TCU football coach Sonny Dykes joining us on 365 Sports. Paul Catalina, and I'm David Smoak.
Coach, as you sit here at 10-0, can you look back to a point between the time you took the job and now where you started to feel that this team could be capable of something that is really, really special?
Well, I think there's been a couple of times. You know, we got out of spring ball and thought, wow, we've got some good players, probably a little bit better talent than we thought we would have maybe coming in. So we had some huge holes. You know, we were really, needed some defensive linemen. You know, we just didn't have the bodies on the defensive front. So, we had to go find some guys, and we were really lucky. Found a kid from California that's come in and started for us at nose tackle, Dom Williamson. He's been an outstanding player. We got a couple of transfers, Timon Mitchell from the University of Georgia, Caleb Fox from Stephen F. Austin, Lawal Ugak from Connecticut, and just were able to start filling in. And then we had some guys that had been more role players for us that have really stepped up at that position. You know, Dylan Horton, I think, has become one of the better defensive linemen in the Big 12. And so, once we were able to get those guys here and get them in our strength and conditioning program, we started to feel better about our team, probably third week of fall camp. And then to me, during the season, playing Oklahoma, I think was big for us. We played them pretty early. It was our first conference game and really got off to a good start against those guys and felt like we matched up from a talent standpoint, from a size and strength standpoint, from a physicality standpoint. And I think at that point we all thought, well, you know what, we have a chance to have a good team and let's see where this goes. And our guys started to get more confident week in and week out. And all of a sudden you look up and here you are. And so it's been a fun ride. But I do think there's been 3 or 4 different instances where we said, you know what, we have a chance to do something that might be pretty fun.
Coach Dykes with us on 365 Sports. To have that kind of transfer infusion, there can also be the juggling of chemistry, et cetera. Was that ever an issue at all? It appears not.
Not at all. We were very intentional about the guys that we brought in and how they fit. And we didn't want to sacrifice short-term success, in the result of long-term failure. That was really important to us. We wanted to make sure we balanced our roster. And some of those transfers I talked about, one of them is a graduate transfer. A couple of them were younger guys. Couple were kind of sophomore, junior type guys. And so it's been a lot of different kinds of players. Our leading tackler is a transfer from Navy, and he's been a very high character guy. We have a safety that came from Colorado that's been a real team leader for us. And you just go through our roster and you start looking at some of the transfers we had. And a lot of those kids are some of the hardest working, best teammates, most committed, very unselfish kids that we have in our program. And so, I think in a lot of ways, it really helped our culture. It created competition. Those guys were hungry. Those guys had experience and had been in programs. Some of them have been in really successful programs. And it's really, I think, been a great infusion of not only talent, but character in our program. And we had to, again, be very intentional about that.
Sonny, you when I've watched your team, and there's explosive, dynamic playmakers, and obviously the guys in the trenches. But what I've come to see, like for example, I remember covering Kendry Miller when he was at Mount Enterprise, a little tiny 2A school in Deep East Texas. But what I see are tough as hell, wiry, strong, and that doesn't mean that's not saying that they're not also physically strong, but a team that is just tough as heck. With Kazkazadi, strength and conditioning, and you've known him because he was with you at SMU as well. Do you also see that too, as far as just a team that is just tough?
Yeah, I think that's the best trademark of our team. Obviously, we've got some good players, and we've got good team speed and some good individuals. But we have there's a toughness that kind of runs through our program, and I do think that Kazkazadi is obviously a big part of that. I think our guys really, really like to play football. You know what I mean? I think that's been the thing that I've been the most impressed with. In the world of NIL, in the world of the transfer portal, in the world of all this stuff that people view as negatives and selfishness and all the things that people talk about all the time, our guys just really enjoy practicing and playing. And that's not always the case. I mean, I've coached on some good teams, I've coached some bad teams. But a lot of times you had to beg those teams to practice, and you had to, try to find ways to motivate them all the time and tricks and all this stuff. And you don't have to do any of that with these guys. I mean, you roll a football out and they go and they compete and they enjoy it. And they really like each other. I mean, it's one of those teams that the chemistry is really special. It's really an unselfish group of guys. I mean, they're really, really hungry. There's been all this kind of talk externally about college football playoff and rankings and bowl games and Big 12 championship and all that. And truly, I've never heard a single one of our players talk about any of those things. I mean, the guys they have fun around each other. They play hard for each other. And they really talk about practice and working hard and preparing and trying to do the right thing. And let's go see what happens on Saturday. And at the end of the year, we'll add it all up and see where we are. And that's been the approach that this group has taken. And it's really been a lot of fun to be a part of it.
How good was it to have the quarterback room you had? You made the decision. Chandler Morris, he goes down. Max Duggan, we all know his history, experience, and toughness as well. To have that and then just kind of watch this team take off.
Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, Max is we have a really good quarterback room to start with. I mean, Chandler is a really talented guy. Had a great spring, had an unbelievable fall camp. He was the guy that we were going to roll with. Got injured in the second half of the Colorado game, and Max stepped right in and took the job and ran with it, just as you would expect in a veteran quarterback to do. Max is one of those guys that he makes every single person around him better. He just has that ability to make plays, to elevate people's game. Again, he's got a toughness about him and a selflessness that's, really permeated our program. And he's a good athlete. I mean, he can really run. He's got good size. He's a tough runner. He's got a strong arm. He's still developing. He's a passer. I think he gets better and better every single week. But he just makes our team better. He makes the plays in the ball game that you have to make in order to win it. And so that's, it's not always real pretty. He finds a way to grind it out and get it done. And as I said, I mean, I think, our team is kind of taking on his personality. And so that's kind of who we are. And I think a big part of that's because of Max.
Sonny, one more question, if you don't mind, is that last year Baylor was one of the great stories in college football with what Dave Aranda and company did, winning the Big 12 and then a Sugar Bowl against Ole Miss. This year right now, and it appears as if you are right there at that same level with, in fact, even more so because you're undefeated. Baylor at 6-4 got bloodied pretty good by K-State. What do you expect Saturday to see with Baylor?
Well, I expect to see a really good football team. I mean, they're a physical team. They're kind of built a lot like we are. They're a line of scrimmage team, built up, big up front, powerful, strong. They want to run the football. So it ought to be a great contest that way. I mean, they want to stop the run defensively. We want to do the same thing. They want to run the ball on offense. We want to do the same thing. They've got a lot of speed, a lot of playmakers. I really like the running backs. I think those guys are really good football players. The quarterback's playing well. So I expect it to be a very, very physical, hard-fought, tough football game, and I have a ton of respect for Dave. You know, he's a heck of a football coach, really smart guy. You know, I know his team's going to play hard. They're going to be well coached and, you know, well prepared. So we'll have our hands full, but it's, you know, it's exciting. I mean, it's a rivalry game between, you know, TCU and Baylor, and I think our players are excited to play.
Does it seem like this team doesn't pay attention to outside noise as each game gets to be more important?
You know, I think we have up to this point. I mean, look, we were picked 7th in the league, you know, and so we didn't listen to it. And that's what we kind of said at the beginning. Look, let's don't listen to it when they were talking about how bad we are, and let's don't make the mistake of listening to it when they're telling you how great you are. You know, I think the thing we got to do is just prepare well and work hard. And, you know, when we get to Saturday, then we got to go out and empty the tank and play as hard as we can and play smart, winning style of football. And, you know, we've been able to do that so far. And as I said, we'll have our hands full on Saturday for sure. But, you know, our guys have a lot of confidence and they're looking forward to competing.
Sonny, congratulations on what you've done so far. Good luck going forward. Thank you very much for your time. It's been a great story.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yes, sir.
We'll see you soon.
Yes, sir. Sonny Dykes, head coach at TCU.
Game Day Live on News 10 is sponsored locally by TFNB, your bank for life, Advanced Pain Care, and Central Texas Plumbing Solutions.
I don't know what any of this stuff is.
Is the Jeep not starting?
Token, can you please come help?
Y'all call for a tow?
Yes.
Y'all call for a tow?
Yes.
Call Tow King 24 hours a day for all your emergency roadside needs.
What sets Hillcrest Dental Care apart is our vision of how we want to care for our patients to improve their health and their quality of life, whether it's the teeth, the gums, the bite, or the smile.
Because I didn't feel anything at all. When I woke up there, I had everything done. I go to the restaurant to eat, and the waitress said this, "You got new teeth." So they noticed it too. If you want something done that is good and permanent, this is the place to go.
We want people to know that we don't only care about the unborn, we care about those that have been born. And we believe that we bring hope, that we save lives, and that we transform families. My name is Lisa Chanot. I am the president of the Council for Life Central Texas Board. Our goal this year is to raise $150,000 so that we can continue to support agencies that share our mission.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Black Mar Barbecue Tailgate Series, brought to you by Game Guard Outdoors, Favorites Barbecue, and Sikkim 365. I don't know why I touched my hat right there. I'm not wearing a Favorites hat right now. Today, we've been getting a lot of AM games, so I'm bringing you one of my favorite tailgate recipes, the breakfast burrito. We're not doing brisket this time. We're not doing pulled pork. We're doing one of my personal favorite things to eat, beef barbacoa. Beef cheeks, not cheek cheeks, they are fantastic. It's a thick, dense muscle that we're gonna break down. Gonna hit it with some corn elote, a little roasted pepper salsa, some eggs, some potato. It came out awesome, looking just like this. Smoky, peppery barbacoa, all in this neat, cute little breakfast burrito. Barbacoa breakfast burrito. You may have seen this beautiful piece of meat, pristine, at your grocery store and wondered, what the hell do people do with this? It looks insane. It's got tons of sinew and gristle. It's a cheap cut, big meat fibers. Well, this is the beef cheek, and this is what we're gonna turn into our barbacoa for our breakfast burritos. This is definitely something you're gonna wanna make ahead of time because it does take forever to cook these down until they're tender. You can spend a lot of time trimming this up and, you know, cutting these wads of fat off like that if you want. For me, I'm just gonna leave them as is, season them, and we're gonna get them on the smoker for a long time. And of course, I'm going on with a little favorites sweet heat for this cook. It's got a good amount of cumin, salt, pepper, a little sweetness in there. A lot of flavors I like to play with. It's got a chipotle kind of kick vibe to it. I think it'll do really well with this barbacoa. And remember, when we're done with this is all gonna be shredded. So no need to worry that much about getting every little crack and crevice seasoned. Saved it. Going on old Marley. Whoops. We're doing a 2-for-1 cook. We've got another deal going on right now. Best thing about barbacoa is you don't really have to be gentle with it. You don't have to be mindful in it. We can literally pile it up if we need to. Although if the damn HOA would let me use brandy in the driveway, this wouldn't be an issue. Defund the HOA. Get the lid back on. We're gonna let that go quite literally until the fire goes out. We'll just let it smoke all day, then we'll braise it at night. I might even know the yard right now. My wife asked me to do it earlier. Sick 'em bears. That's a good puppy. It has been a good amount of time since we put these on the pit. I have since mowed the yard, shot a whole nother video, hit some golf balls, had a family Zoom call, and these are looking like little blocks of meteorite. Pretty tender, already peeling apart, but probe this with a meat thermometer, and they're still got some give, and they're probing around 185, 190. You could take these up to 200, but they're still tough, right? Like you could pull this apart, even get a little snack right there. That is so good. So much collagen breakdown, so much connective tissue, but we can do more. So the main thing I want to highlight here is make this in advance. Smoke this the day before, then overnight, just throw all this in a pan, and we're gonna braise this all night. Along with our braising, we're just gonna go in with a head of garlic, cut up onion, some peppers from the backyard. Now we're gonna do our braising liquid. I've had pretty great success in the past using beef tallow. Usually I make my own, but it does stink the house up. I didn't want to piss my wife off. So we're using this Wagyu beef tallow. You can buy it on Amazon. It's good stuff. Just gonna pull off a big chunk, slide that in there. Now you could add a ton of tallow to this. You could do all tallow if you wanted. That would be awesome. It would be a confit. But that's also the most expensive way to do this. So what I've found in the past is a little tallow and a little beer works wonders. Whatever beer you like. Today I'm using some Three Nations El Capitan. A little bit for me, a little bit for the beef. Important coaching point, you don't need to completely cover this in liquid. We just want to have enough in there to simmer for a long time and it'll be just fine. Gonna put this package in the oven overnight. Breakfast burrito prep time. This potato we're gonna get a quick dice on. We're gonna get this potato crisped up, ready for our burrito. Potato, onion, favorite sweet heat, scrambled eggs. Oh, whoops. Salt. Oh yeah, perfect little soft scramble. Excellent in burritos. Drop these bad boys over the coals, get a little char grilled veggie action. Corny loti, salsa verde, it's gonna be fire. All right, we grilled off our veggies. Everything that's real dark like this, going into a plastic bag with the steam. All these peppers. Brush the air out of this and then you can see already it's starting to steam up. Just let that sit for 5-10 minutes, then rub all that black stuff off. Elote style corn. We're gonna take our grilled corn, just work that down with the knife. Into the bowl. Jesus. Green bell pepper. Cilantro. Mayonnaise. Hellman's, the real good stuff. Mexican crema or sour cream works great as well. Cotija cheese, you can also use queso fresco. I've had real good results with both. This is basically Mexican Parmesan cheese. It's very salty, so make sure you do it before you season your elote so you don't go too heavy. I'm gonna finish this off with the star of today's dish, favorite sweet heat. This has a good amount of cumin in it, which I appreciate. If it didn't, I would add cumin to this. This lime juice is gonna help it pop. That's good enough. You can't just take one bite of that. Got great roasty flavors from our grilled veggies. First for our salsa, I'm gonna give this cooked onion a rough chop. Peppers, just pop the stem off into the blender. The great thing about this sauce is I make it different every time. The important part to me is really just to get some peppers, some fresh peppers, and roast them off. And then play around with it, make it your own. Cilantro, stems and all. Give that just a quick rough chop. Give it some lime juice. We're gonna go in with some beer. Favorite sweet heat, half an avocado. Just a wee bit of avocado oil. This will help smooth it out. That's a damn good roasted pepper salsa. Now we put this in last night. It is now dinner the next day. I had it in the oven at 225 for a few hours, then I bumped it to 185 when we went to bed. It's been there all day today. You remember those little meteorites? Ooh, that's hot. Just beautiful. Falling apart. You're pulling these out, make sure to throw in a couple of those onions, those peppers we put in there, and the garlic. The garlic is gonna be phenomenal. You can shred this with forks, you can mash it through a strainer, you can do all kinds of stuff. I'm just drawing up the game plan. You're the one that's got to execute. Point is, we want it shredded. That was a damn good line. Anytime you see a big old glob of fat, just go ahead and pull that out. These were the literal cheeks of a cow. Face cheeks, not butt cheeks. So good. All right, this is our starting lineup for our breakfast burrito. I'm gonna make it just how I'll make it at the tailgate, except at the tailgates we use brisket, because it's cheaper to make a whole bunch of that. Start off with a beautiful, generous portion of beef cheek, some eggs, taters. Get those, some roasted, seasoned potatoes in there with your barbacoa. Over the top with our roasted pepper sauce. Don't be shy now. And a little corn elote to bring it all together. Wrap this bad boy up. Speaking of wrapping this up, I'm just gonna add a couple little deals of cheese. This is Oaxaca cheese. Now, I'm no expert, but I've gotten decent at wrapping burritos. We're gonna come here, punch in with our middle fingers, take the bottom, roll it up, pray, tuck, 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 tuck. Ball security, ball security, ball security. Oh my God. Panic, panic, panic. Bail, bail, bail. All right, fresh tortilla. Oh yes, get everything situated. Middle fingers in, grab the butt, fold, 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 tuck, 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 pray, pray, pray. Get your sides, tuck, 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 tuck. And then we throw in a little bit of cheese right here at the seam to act as our glue. Now at the tailgate, I can't sear this. Since I'm at home, I'm gonna sear this in a pan real quick. That's so damn good. Smoky beef cheek. You got the egg, the potatoes soaking everything up. I've made iterations of these for several tailgates and they always are a hit. Sorry, I'm talking to you guys like animals. We're taking cheap, tough cuts of meat like that beef cheek, rendering it down into this smoky, tender, begging to be put in a burrito or a taco. Mix in some elite eggs, some roasted corn. We're building layers of flavor. Breakfast tacos may be king in Texas, but I don't know a single Texan that would turn down a barbacoa elote corn breakfast burrito like this. Hot damn. Thanks for watching. Tune in next week to see what we cook up next.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Richard Carr and his team are standing by the Bears in all sports this coming season, but Richard Carr's passion for football started many years ago when he was a trainer for the football team. In addition to his alma mater, Richard Carr also loves selling quality cars and trucks to his Central Texas neighbors. Whether you want the unbeatable GMC Sierra truck loaded with luxury and strong and tough for the workday, or the performance and ride of a Cadillac or Buick SUV, Richard Carr has an amazing lineup of vehicles for you. Stop by for a test drive, contact them online, or call and say sick 'em and you're immediately a VIP at Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Find them at Highway 6 at the Imperial Exit or at richardcarr.com.
At Richard Carr, we give you more. Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Game Day Live on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, TFNB, your bank for life, Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, Three Nations Brewing Company, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Edward Jones Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Furno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, and Bubba's 33.
Richard Carr and his team are standing by the Bears in all sports this coming season, but Richard Carr's passion for Baylor football started many years ago as a trainer for the football team. In addition to his alma mater, Richard Carr loves selling quality cars and trucks to his Central Texas neighbors. Contact him online, call him and say sick 'em, and you'll immediately be a VIP, or find them at Highway 6 at the Imperial Exit or at richardcarr.com.
We will hear from Dave Aranda momentarily, also going back to the stadium at some point between now and 10:30 with Chris Williams at McLean Stadium. Of the top 25 outside of the Big 12, the games that seem to have some implications, in fact, Navy just kicking off against future Big 12 opponent UCF. That game is an early kickoff. So let's think about this. Illinois was in the top 25. They're not. They play at number 3 Michigan. Quick little hit from either one of you guys, and we move on.
Illinois' got a great defense, so I think this would maybe slow Blake Corum and the Michigan offense down a little bit, but I do think that ultimately Michigan's just too deep.
Yeah,
okay.
Expect Michigan to win this game.
All right, a game, of course, later tonight, you have the game between Oregon and Utah. 9:30 kickoff, number 10 against number 12.
Well, if Bo Nix is indeed not going to play, I'm at least glad it's till 9:30 if I'm Oregon, and maybe he can feel better until then, but he's probably not going to play. That changes this game greatly. Utah's a tough squad, and they're playing well lately, and they're gamers to the end. So I expect, even without Bo Nix, for it to be a pretty interesting game.
Important game for Pac-12 Conference Championship stakes. This and the USC-UCLA game are going to kind of help determine who we see here in a couple of weeks playing for that title. Utah, got everything in that you'd like in a team to play a little bit of spoiler tonight, so wouldn't be surprised to see that.
Also, earlier tonight in the Pac-12, which has possible playoff implications, and obviously Pac-12 championship game implications, USC and UCLA at UCLA across town.
I think this is the first time this game means anything in a long time. And I think it'll be a great game. It's a great quarterback battle. We all picked USC. I think USC just has a little bit more athleticism overall, but I don't think that may come out of mean anything when the emotions come into this, but should be a battle tonight.
Yeah, I just said, need to correct myself. Spoiler, Utah's actually 2 spots higher than Oregon. I need to remind myself of that, but Oregon's been higher all year. It also doesn't seem like Oregon's as high as Utah's as high as 10. I don't know why. It just feels like in my head they're farther back than that, but they're right there at 10. So yeah, that on the other side, the Battle of Los Angeles, another game with some teams right there in the mix of the playoff just a week ago, and USC still in that a little bit. So, the Pac-12's really had a solid year, especially given the offseason and all of the junk that they took throughout. To have 4 teams in these 2 games, the next to last week of the season, all battling for spots in the conference championship game here in a couple weeks, but also with playoff implications all throughout. Very good year for the Pac-12 overall, and these should be 2 excellent games. But, yeah, I would think Lincoln Riley and USC have a bit of an edge here.
By the way, top 2 teams should roll today. Georgia at Kentucky, although that, again, Kentucky earlier this year, who knows? But they've fallen back. Ohio State on the road against Maryland. And weather, of course, a factor. It's cold and bitter here. It should start raining at some point, maybe a little bit after noon or so. So it could be one of those days where you have to just battle the conditions inside college football's little bubble. This is a game of interest to me. What's happened to Arkansas other than the schedule? Ole Miss 14th at Arkansas.
KJ Jefferson's been hurt. Look,
that's a big part of it.
I mean, he's the difference maker for that team. And, they went back and forth quarterbacks with Malik Knowles, who's really fast, but not really that much of a quarterback. And then they had another guy last week whose name escapes me. Please forgive me on that one. But, yeah, I don't think you can get consistency no matter how confident you are in your offense when you're running through 3 different quarterbacks and the one that you really want to play is not there. So I think that's the big thing for Arkansas.
All right, now we will again hear from Dave Aranda, Baylor football coach, and check back in with Chris Williams one more time at McLean Stadium. We'll do that a little bit later. This is 365 Sports on 365 Sports and KWTX Game Day Live.
Central Texas Plumbing Solutions is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly, getting it done right the first time. We want to wish the Big 12 champion Bears great success this season. Sic 'em Bears. Central Texas Plumbing Solutions is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly, getting it done right the first time. We want to wish the Big 12 champion Bears great success this season. Sic 'em Bears.
An accident followed by chronic pain, it can be devastating.
I was in a firefighting accident and hurt my back real bad. My surgeon didn't want to complete the surgery. That's when I turned to advanced pain care, and they've really kept me going.
We recommended a spinal cord stimulator for Mr. Johnson. Once you turn on the stimulator, the patient doesn't feel the chronic pain anymore.
The stimulator, I start seeing results immediately. You wake up and you're going, where'd the pain go?
Let us help you take back your life. Call us today. Advanced Pain Care, the pain stops here.
When it comes to accounting or financial services, choose a firm where it's about you. At Patillo, Brown & Hill, we empower our clients to thrive and grow with a strong professional partnership that gets to know you and your business. Our longevity is a product of our top-notch team of innovative thinkers, critical problem solvers, and dedicated partners who provide a clear and comprehensive plan for your financial achievement. Patillo, Brown & Hill, because it's more than numbers and data. It's about providing peace of mind.
Central Texas Plumbing Solutions is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly, getting it done right the first time. We want to wish the Big 12 champion Bears great success this season. Sick 'em Bears.
KWTX News 10 Weekend Evenings.
Baylor football coach Dave Aranda with me, David Smoak, 365 Sports. You have mentioned this a lot throughout the year, and you said this in the postgame. And first of all, thanks for your time as always, that there's a tug of war, that you kind of have a tug of war on whether or not whoever, player, position, team is ready. And honestly, how can that be 10 weeks into the season? How frustrating is that?
I appreciate the question. I think there's a fair amount of anxiety would be one thing. I think our players get it into their head, and it prevents them from showing up or responding, I guess, to adversity the way that you like, and you see reactions instead. I think that's one. Then I think the other thing that pops up is that there's been some growth in just the discipline off the field with the team, and I think that it's really the best training for what comes up on the field is when you're doing all the little things right off the field. And I kind of hate to bring it back to that, but it's just so foundational, and I feel like I've failed, I think, in that category to really reach as many people as I could, or I could have. And so, I think there's guys that whether they're young players that are still learning, or there's older players that have maybe graduated that want to come back to maybe win another thing, and then just all the details that have to be on point, and all of the learning specialists that have to be on time, and the classes that have to be you have to be prepared for, and the papers that have to be due on time, and just all those things. I think that is a second thing. And then I want to say just the third would be the ability to, within a system, play green. And so to be yourself when you're with us. And so to not just be a robotic or not just go off and do your own thing, but to kind of be within a system and then play and really kind of express yourself. And I think there's some good examples of that last year. I think there's some examples of that this year too, but just not enough.
You've brought that up a lot this year. Is it disappointing that they haven't gotten it, that it's still a battle?
Yeah, I think, for me, it just shows how tough communication can be. I think it probably makes me better. My hope is that for our team, they individually, for them, personally for them, it's going to end up making them better, because I think at some point they'll get it. I don't know. I think at some point.
You're running out of time.
At some point, I think they'll get it. Well, I'm just talking for life.
Yeah, well, no,
I'm just talking for life.
Sure.
That they'll understand and they'll get it. And then I for the guys that are on our team right now that have gotten it, and there's Mike Makuza is a guy I'm really proud of his growth. Apuaika is a guy I'm really proud of with his growth. TJ Franklin's a guy I'm really proud of with his growth. Even Connor Galvin, beginning of the year, kind of feeling all pumped up with just what was said about him, and we kind of lost him for a little bit, and we got him back. And so there's just so much with those guys, just that it transcends football. But when it turns on for them, I mean, you really get to see them, and it's just way cool. But for it's probably more than a few. For others, it's been difficult.
In 2020, the thoughts, again, you and I spoke about this many times, about who you are, your demeanor. Tony Dungy, Lovie Smith, Tom Landry, and I'm mentioning them because of their demeanor. Doesn't mean there's not a fire in your stomach. And then 2021, you're a genius. And all the philosophical stuff was brilliant. And then now there's some disappointing losses. Do you feel like players take advantage of your demeanor?
I don't think so. I think, I think it's all tied together. I think if I was to be just, maybe F-bombs and short fuse and all that. What that would really mean is probably, number one, it's all about me. Right. I don't really, all the other guys are here just to serve me and get my stuff done. That'd be one. Two would be, there'd be a culture on the staff of like, well, I wonder what Dave's going to be like today. Yep. Is it going to be a good day? Is
up
it going
and
to
down
be a bad day?
Yeah.
And then you just have there's more to that too. And then you just have all of the kind of the trails off of that. And so, the accountability, I do not believe has been an issue. I think it's been more of, hey, coach has talked about this. This is something that we've spent time on, and we're still struggling to do it, right? And whether that's stay together and not abandon technique, whether that's get our grades up and our GPA and our class attendance to what it should be. I think just those things I can lead with and help and nudge and guide with. Really, we've got to get our guys to make that choice to do it. And when they do, it's just crazy how stuff comes to them. And so, like I say, there's been guys that has happened, probably not enough.
In 2020, you were amazingly loyal to Charlie Brewer, and then eventually he left. Mm-hmm. And then last year you had the great situation with Gary, and then Shapen comes in and does well. You made the decision in April or whatever it was about Blake being QB1 and Gary moved on. When you made that decision, it appeared as if your offense would be much more dynamic. Mm-hmm. Why hasn't it been dynamic in the passing game, and or did you ever think about going to Kyron just to change it up on Saturday night?
No, I appreciate that. I would say, these last couple weeks offensively, we've been productive. I think passing game wise have probably been okay the last couple games. I think previous to that, when the run game was probably not what it needed to be, I thought the passing game was pretty strong. And so I think going into this pass game, it'd be great if we could do all of these things at one time. It's about time to do this. And so I'm sure that pressure was being felt by him, and just by watching him play on Saturday, that's what was speaking to me, is that here he is, here's Blake trying to press this or force this or trying to make this happen and all of it. So I think with all that, I got to look at myself first, and I got to look at the environment and if there's anything I did there to get that. Because, we're up here yesterday and we're watching, putting the game to bed and going through all of it. And we have family dinner, so our families come up and with the staff. And so we're seeing them and trying to have a break from it. And out of the quarterback room, Blake comes out and he's got all the young receivers in there. And they're all watching the game. They've been in there for like 3 hours, And so I think so much of it too is that he goes really, and he's tied to the hip with them. And so like their improvements, their growth, their trust in, hey, if there's a hitch and it's run at 4, we can't be running a hitch at 8, mm-hmm. And that's happened. And so I think things like, the whole thing, you wish it was kind of a one-stop shop, and it just hasn't been. And I think one of the more consistent things in the throw game probably has been Blake. And so, we got all the faith in him, and we're looking forward to this next one. We're going to, we got hit with a lot of man pressure in this last game. We're going to, I would not be surprised if that's all we see in this next one.
Last week there was a lot of talk about the attendance. Do you as a coach care about whether the fans show up for a game, is a sellout, what uniforms you wear, anything like that ever get inside your bubble?
No, but I think, I did notice the athletic staff really make a push. I'm seeing stuff pop up of, our baseball coach saying, go to the football game. Yeah. And I'm seeing all that, and it's like, it makes you feel a part of, and it makes you feel like there's support, and it makes you feel like I think really, dude, it's way bigger than you, and so that's always good to feel that. And so but then I think I would start to feel with the players, or feeling some on Friday, just with that, hey, it looks like it's going to be a good crowd, or the kids are saying, hey, I've got however many people coming, and I know for them it matters, the energy for that. And especially when we're on the road and we're in these environments, and they have to kind of quiet the crowd with execution. They know what it's like on the other side, and so for them to be in environments where it's that to our advantage, I know that's something that hits them for sure.
The fan base came to the game, no doubt, and it started building around Tuesday or Wednesday, and whether they wanted a blackout or whatever, and they were there. Mm-hmm. And it's like you guys blew a tire. Mm-hmm. You mentioned that in your presser, but is that like a missed moment right there?
There's no doubt about it. Yeah, you feel that, and it's kind of it's just so. I'm just so disappointed in myself, really, and so it's hard. It's hard medicine to take.
What would you describe this year? 6-4 bowl team. Mm-hmm. Been some challenges. How would you describe this season based on the expectations, and then also what you actually can get?
Yeah, I think it's been probably framed by expectations, and I think unfortunately, and I think there's been a lot of growth with the team. I think there's been improvements. I think there's been areas that the team has matured in spots that they didn't even know they needed maturing on. And then I think there's blind spots that we had that we didn't even know we had. And so I think that discovery of the whole thing throughout is probably my biggest takeaway. But I think there's an opportunity to finish really strong with this one. Mm-hmm. And I think there's another great opportunity right after that. And so, kind of mentioned it before, is the response is going to be the biggest thing. Like how we respond is really going to be, especially after just the dud of this last one, is really going to be kind of what is the heart and soul of the team.
Dave Aranda, Baylor football coach, 365 Sports.
Game Day Live on News 10 is sponsored locally by TFNB, your bank for life, Advanced Pain Care, and Central Texas Plumbing Solutions.
Hi, I'm Vic Fazell. During these trying times, you might want to just stay home. And at the law offices of Vic Fazell, we understand. That's why we're set up to handle your personal injury claim without you even having to come in. Just give us a call, and we'll take it from there. We can send any paperwork straight to your smartphone or computer. Don't delay, because if we don't put money in your pocket, you don't owe us anything. I'm Vic Fazell.
Moving in, and you know what that means. Warehouse clearance sale. I'm Carol Weaver with Waco Mattress Center. Don't wait until the end of the year sales like everyone else. Ours is going on now. This isn't the cheap stuff. These are quality mattresses, scratch and dent, as well as discontinued and one-of-a-kinds. Fulls, queens, and king-size mattresses, as well as adjustable bases up to 75% off. Don't wait. These savings won't last. Going on now at Waco Mattress Center. Thank you for your business and keeping it local.
Game Day Live as we take you closer, about 40 minutes away from kickoff at McLean Stadium. No. 4 unbeaten TCU and Baylor 6-4, and we're joined again by Chris Williams, who's at McLean Stadium there with the again big game, that big noon kickoff show and all that. And it's cold. And Chris, thanks for your time. Let's discuss TCU. Explosive on offense. Now, last week they won in a different way. How does that present the problem for a defense in Baylor, especially that has struggled giving up big plays?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing to look at that people might not realize is the guy who calls the plays for TCU's offense, that's Lincoln Riley's younger brother, Garrett. So what Lincoln Riley did at Oklahoma, you saw those offenses. Obviously, they had some nice games here at McLean Stadium. Well, it's a similar system that they're running at TCU. But, Smokey, here's why it's a tough matchup for Baylor specifically. The way they run their offense is they spread you out across the field, and then they see what you're going to leave them, and they exploit that weakness. For Baylor, they've had some issues with one-on-one coverage, issues with the defensive backs. Aranda's admitted they've had to call their defense differently to protect some of those guys. So when you do that, your safeties back up a little bit, they widen out a little bit, and that middle of the field opens up, and that's just what TCU wants. Kendra Miller's been doing it all year long. They run that inside zone, 5-on-5 blocking, and they do it for 6, 7, 8, sometimes 10 yards a pop. So then you have to decide, do we want to stop the run? And as soon as you bring those guys in, you see guys like Quentin Johnson, who we talked about earlier from Temple. They have the speed to go with the big play. They have the confidence to go with the big play. And Max Duggan, I mean, that is something that every coach they played, Sarkisian talked about it last week, Aranda talked about it this week. His confidence at quarterback for TCU has been the difference maker, because as soon as you show that weakness, he's taking it. If that's a 50-yard bomb, he's comfortable throwing that ball, and it has worked to perfection for TCU this year.
Chris, real quick, as we're up against the clock, will weather be a factor in any way for either of these teams today, you think?
It's chilly, but I'm told the rain is going to hold off till after lunch. So as long as it stays dry, it's not cold enough to make a big difference. No, I don't think weather plays a role as long as it stays dry.
Chris, your thoughts about who wins today?
It's hard to bet against TCU, but whenever there's a rivalry, I think it's a toss-up. So I think we'll know early on if Baylor's here to play, and if they are, I think the Bears could very well get that upset and spoil the perfect season.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you. We'll have you wherever Baylor is for a bowl game down the road. Chris Williams and Darby Brown have joined us in the pregame from wherever Baylor is playing today at McLean Stadium. We come back and wrap it up. Our thoughts and who's going to take that senior walk next on Game Day Live.
Richard Carr and his team are standing by the Bears in all sports this coming season, but Richard Carr's passion for football started many years ago when he was a trainer for the football team. In addition to his alma mater, Richard Carr also loves selling quality cars and trucks to his Central Texas neighbors. Whether you want the unbeatable GMC Sierra truck loaded with luxury and strong and tough for the workday, or the performance and ride of a Cadillac or Buick SUV, Richard Carr has an amazing lineup of vehicles for you. Stop by for a test drive, contact them online, or call and say sick 'em, and you're immediately a VIP at Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Find them at Highway 6 at the Imperial Exit or at richardcarr.com.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Did you know Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco is open to the public? Next time you're in town for a Baylor athletic event or you're in town for tourism, take advantage of their day passes for $10 a piece or the weekend for $30. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers 40 group exercise classes, including indoor cycling and yoga, boot camp, and bar. New free weights, weight machines, TRX rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines, and a spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alec Botch, where you will be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, kids club, 16 tennis courts, and 8 pickleball courts, and youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons available. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit wacotennis.com or visit them next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, who invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-759-8533, Chuck Verno at 720 North 64th Street, Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense of investing, member SIPC. Richard Carr and his team.
All right, we're back Game Day Live. To wrap it up real quick, seniors walk today. Squirrel Williams and Siaka Ika are on the list. Craig, your thoughts on those?
Not surprising to see Apu on there. He's probably going to the NFL, and that'll be a huge loss for Baylor. And Squirrel Williams has been around for quite a while and has dealt with a lot of injuries. So wouldn't be surprised to see him moved on. Not a guarantee if he walks today, but wouldn't be surprising.
All right. All of us have TCU winning. I said 34-23. It just seemed like they have more to play for. Of course, Baylor, you thought, and Fort Worth did too. For Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, for Garrett Ross, Andrew Hamilton, thank you. 365 Sports and KWTX. And this is Game Day Live.
Central Texas Plumbing Solutions is the team you can count on to go the extra mile and resolve your plumbing problems quickly and thoroughly, getting it done right the first time. We want to wish the Big 12 champion Bears great success this season. Sic 'em Bears.
We want people to know that we don't only care about the unborn, we care about those that have been born. And we believe that we bring hope, that we save lives, and that we transform families. My name is Lisa Cheneau. I am the president of the Council